Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another glorious episode of True Sight, your meme-free destination for Dota 2 news, analysis, and insight. My name is Ian J. Barker, and joining me as always is Malice, also known as Lee Massey. Malice, how are you doing this evening?
Pretty good. I just had to use my air shots, but
you did. Are you out of bullets now?
Yeah, I
is
got
that
to
the last
reload.
of the
Those are
handguns?
expensive, you know. The session's hitting hard these days.
No question. No question. I thought the economy was better now.
No.
I can never keep
Still
track.
in the States. Look at. Yeah, we're not going to get into it. But we have an amazing show for you guys today. We've got Skim. The amazing.
Is that a question?
It's not really a question. It's more of a statement of the century.
We do. We have Skim joining us tonight to talk a little bit about the fallout after the We Play finals in Kiev, and then we're talking after that about the meta, about the ever-changing meta. It's a hot topic right now as everybody fleshes out the new items, new hero changes, and we're excited to tell you a little bit of what we've observed as the games have moved forward. So, but just first to kick things off, we've got Skim joining us. Skim, how are you doing this evening?
Hey, I'm quite fine. Thanks for having me.
No
How
problem.
Are you guys?
We're good. I'm actually was put in like an even better mood by your shirt.
Oh my God. Team of host. I like it.
Who won that one? I actually can't
that
remember.
year that was Team
Fans.
No Tail, I think.
The fans won.
That's
that. That's the correct answer. Now, Skim, obviously, we brought you into to tap your brain and get some of your insight because there was a rather large tournament that went down in Kiev this weekend. For those of you who aren't familiar, We Play Season 3 went down. It was a bit dubious at times. The technical issues, the production issues, but ultimately a lot of great Dota was played, and we learned a lot of things about a lot of teams that headed into the Manila Major. Now, one of the biggest ones that we learned a lot of things about, and Skim, I want to get your opinion with this right off the bat. Let's come out swinging. EG finishes third in their first LAN with this new lineup. Talk to us a little bit about what you saw in EG from their performance in Ukraine.
I think EG performed better than I expected. I mean, obviously it's a new roster, and a lot of people said that, EG, AUI and Bulba were obviously previous members of the team. They know the players. They all know each other. So a lot of people said, EG could be immediately top 3 again in like any tournament. And I was a bit skeptical just because obviously it's just a new team, it's a new meta, especially because of the new patch, right? The patch launched just before We Play even started. So I thought to myself, EG might just, have a bit of like an issue. But honestly, they played really well. I thought that they meshed well together as a team. The players didn't really feel rusty at all. And just the way they picked also seemed as if they actually understood how the new patch was kind of working. They picked a lot of heroes that are even today still picked. Like if you look at matches today from the Manila Major qualifiers, you see a lot of the same picks that EG also picked. So to me, it just tells you that EG is just a really good team, and they're still EG.
Wow, I like that. That was really good. Like, what do you when you think EG? What do you think, honestly? Because you said they're still EG. Who's EG?
For me, EG is a team that understands the game from minute one. Like, as soon as they enter draft, they know how the game is played. They know how to approach the game, how to approach their opponents. They usually have really solid drafts that match not only their team, but also have a way to counter the opponents. And in my opinion, they just really mesh well together as a team. They have usually these... I don't know, I feel like... Okay, I will say, though, that I think that was one of the biggest problems that they had at the LAN, but usually EG is a really good team that works well together. You see PPD make these movements that are just very sacrificial for his own team. Then you see Fear making these movements that help the other lanes to make sure that, this course can excel. And I don't know, it just feels like they always get the best potential or the most potential out of every player almost.
I actually really agree with that. One of the things I like seeing evil geniuses do every time you see them is no matter what's going on outside of the game, no matter what kind of personal problems, interpersonal problems you can have, they're going to show up and they're going to do their A game 9 times out of 10. Of course, as with any people, we're all human beings. We have our days where we're not doing our best. But those guys, they always try to show up and do their best. And most of the times they actually succeed in that. So, I don't know. What do you think about, like...
I think you're absolutely right, and I think that this LAN was just proof of that. I'm going to piggyback off what Skim said, that they're sort of way ahead of schedule right now as far as their development goes. We saw Secret come out, and obviously there's some difficulties there that don't exist within EG. The personalities need to mesh. The university sort of needs to find his play style within a new structure, within a new drafting strategy and execution. Whereas Aoi and Bulba stepped in, and it feels like from day one this team understood day one of the We Play finals, this team understood what they wanted to do. And I actually wanted to bring up something that stood out to me at this tournament, and it was the progress that EG made, because the very first match of the tournament, they played this very, I wouldn't call it greedy, but it was very safe, very farm-heavy style, and they didn't want to take a ton of risks in the early game because they were obviously clearly still feeling things out, and it worked for them. They beat Ad Finum. They won one fight, and the golden XP graph rubber banded, and they were able to take it pretty easily after that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the tournament, we saw them with aggressive early game rotations. We saw that crazy draft from PPD at the end in Game 3 against Vega. This was just a real growing experience for this team. Skim, I want to hear from you. You talked and said that there were some problems for this team. With all this progress, what's next for this team so that they could start to compete and look like a favorite for the Manila Major?
I think the first is obviously just finding out how they want to approach this patch, because obviously it's new and stuff like that. And I think you could, as you already kind of touched upon it, I think you could tell during the entire tournament how they were trying things out, like how far could they push the limit in certain aspects. Like, can we be this greedy with this patch? Can we like play like a position 4 Doom and then have a Brute Mother still and still have like a Lone Druid or something, this kind of thing. And I think for EG, that's like one of the main things they want to tackle, just finding out, the boundaries of the patch and knowing how they like it, because to me EG is also very flexible because they can play a lot of things. They can control the tempo a lot, they can take it slow, but they can also be aggressive, and then just mostly just finding out, just meshing better as a team yet again. Although again, I think that in general, just with AUI and Bilba, they kind of already seem to understand each other very well. I think that maybe in team fights they've still had a bit of maybe communication issues. It sometimes seemed as if they were kind of disconnected in team fights, where they would maybe try to do multiple things at once. Like, hey, you could sometimes see where they would like really split and then would just like multiple fights at once in one big team fight, that kind of stuff. But ultimately, I think it's just over time, once they play more with one another, I think EG will be like a top team again.
Do you think that they'll be the top team? I mean, I know it's early to make a prediction like that, but we saw a lot of really promising things at We Play.
I definitely could see them to be a team to beat again. Yeah, that's for sure. It's always like a kind of question, like how did the other teams fare? But just as of right now, just because also Secret obviously has been, they did not look good at ESL. Just because of that, I definitely think that EG looks maybe even the most promising. Well, we'll see. We'll see in the qualifier and stuff like that. But still,
you don't want to say anything people are going to quote later.
I'm going to have to disagree.
Exactly.
Oh my god, I'm going to have to disagree with you there, because like I feel like EG right now, the team that's playing right now, it's definitely an experiment. We Play, I feel like, was an experiment. It was more like them saying, "Hey, how greedy can we be? What can we do in this like position?" And I think PPD learned a lot, but I also think that there's a lot of hungrier teams out there. I mean, looking at the qualifiers for Manila right now, there's a lot of teams that are like, hey, we're just as good, if not better, than half these teams that just got scrambled up.
Okay, so
here we
you're
go.
saying that there are hungrier teams out there than a roster whose star players abandoned them because they didn't think they could win a TI with them, who picked up 2 players who have to prove themselves in their new roles.
I'm saying yes, because think about it. These are 3 people that have already won the international. We've got so many kids that are coming up.
Yeah, we've got
people that are coming up in all these different regions. We can't just say EG is going to be the best. I mean, like, this is true Sight, not the EG show. Let's do something where we talk about exactly the other teams who have the hunger and the drive to knock these teams off their throne.
You're talking possibly in a beautiful segue about MVP.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was
no. I don't think MVP. No, not MVP specifically.
This is good shit. There we go.
Oh, wait. But yeah, I love MVP, and I love the fact that they are fighting for their region, Southeast Asia, like South Korea. Like, those guys, they have so many players. They've got the Filipino teams. They've got the Mongolian teams coming in, and they're like, they have something to prove, because we have yet to see, like, some powerhouse come out of there. I mean, we've had a couple.
So, yeah, we've had a couple flashes in the pan.
A couple flashes. It's like an oil in the pan.
Yeah,
where to go?
Exactly.
But, like, we need a fire. We need a campfire that you can sit around and stoke for a while.
This analogy is beautiful. You're painting a word picture for me. So MVP fighting for South Korean pride. Obviously, weird that South Korea is underrepresented in an esport. So a lot on the line here. They win. They win. We Play. But the weird thing about this team is they did so right after a tournament where they got sort of erased from the tournament very, very quickly. So my question for you, Skim, is when it comes to Manila, they're an invited team. What should we expect? Which MVP is going to show up in the Philippines when it comes time to hoist the cup?
I hope that it's the one that was at Shanghai, just because I think that's like the best storyline. It's just having like another like MVP Shanghai kind of scenario, maybe even like a better one. But ultimately, I think the more they get into the spotlight, the worse it is for them. Because at WePlay, I think a lot of people wrote them off. Just as you said before WePlay, they got just destroyed. And like even in online matches, they lost to TNC. They were just online results and online performances. They were only the third team in Southeast Asia behind a team that even took a few roster changes in between. So that's just the state of MVP going into WePlay. And then suddenly at WePlay, because nobody had them on their radar, everybody was like, yeah, you know what? It's just MVP. We know what they're doing. We already figured them out. And then bam, MVP comes out and just destroys everybody again, right? And I think that's just the kind of position they like being in. They like just being the underdog. They just like being the one that's like hunting people. They don't like to be the hunted. They want to hunt people. And I think if they're just going to be into that same position, I think they kind of are. Just because they replay, I don't think people will necessarily have it out for them. Just because there are teams such as EG, Secret, maybe even eHome that people are more anticipating, more like fearing. I think eHome, or I think that MVP will be in a good position to be like top 8, top 6 again.
Yeah, and I mean, you talk about them wanting to be hunted instead of hunting, but they did an awful lot of hunting in Kiev, only dropping 2 games the entire tournament on route to victory. And one of those was sort of an uncharacteristic stomp to Vega Squadron. Maybe they were just taking a break.
I mean, Vega Squadron is one of those hungry teams, though. Vega Squadron always comes to show their A game. I mean, I remember a couple months ago, people were asking me, like, oh, who do you think is going to win these different tournaments? And I never really thought about Vega Squadron, but I think now and moving forward, they're going to be a team on my watch list. Just like Complexity has been for the longest time, I think Vega Squadron and MVP Phoenix are going to be 2 teams that I am excited to see play, and I want to see them knock these kings off their chairs and whatnot.
Well, then the question about MVP, because we've talked to analysts who have said that Fnatic, for example, was very surprised. I believe that was actually Sun Tzu who told us that Fnatic was surprised when they lost to MVP when they made their historic run to its championship for their first international championship. There are people who are saying that they're largely inconsistent. Then obviously you said they got destroyed and then they come out and do this. Any insight into what causes these sort of performance flux, this sort of performance anxiety? I don't know what you would call it for MVP, because I don't know of another team in Dota that's this good and this bad at the same time.
Yeah, it's like a yeah.
I haven't talked to them about it, but just my best guess is just that they're trying to deal with pressure all the time, and they haven't had much experience dealing with all that pressure before. Because up until TA5 even, I think they were completely off the radar for anybody. People knew them, obviously. People were like, oh yeah, MVP, it's the South Korean team, you know? But they never really accomplished anything, and the expectations were quite low, because obviously Dota in South Korea is just non-existent almost. So there weren't really many expectations. There wasn't really a pressure situation for them, so they had nothing to lose. But obviously, as like the bigger their name became, like the bigger their reputation was, the bigger the expectations maybe they even had themselves. And obviously I think that you could see at, where was the tournament where they got destroyed? I think it was ESL Manila or something.
It was, yep.
That tournament, you could just tell that we're like, nah. Maybe they were also just tired, obviously. But I mean, they have been playing a lot. If you look at the players just themselves as well, they actually have like 3 8K players, and you don't get 8K by, you know, maybe playing Dota once a week or something. No, they play Dota nonstop. So maybe they're just all just also too tired. Maybe they need like a coach to maybe, you know, get them off Dota for once in a while and just take it a bit easy here and there. But overall, I think it's mostly just the pressure.
No one would accuse South Korean players of being lazy.
That's not at all.
Yeah, that's okay. That's a good point. That's a good point.
I think the beautiful thing that I'm excited to see is the fact that MVP Phoenix is one of those teams that they're like, I'm looking forward to the international and the next major where like we can see these teams who have the hunger and the drive to do these things, push forward and like knock all these other people off. But what do you think about the new Vega Squadron? So Vega Squadron, they came into WePlay looking for a fight, and they definitely brought it. They went knocked down into the losers bracket, and they came right back up. Mm-hmm. And like, what do you guys think about that? Like, do you think we can see Vega? Do you think we can start seeing Vega on the top 3 teams for the next few years, or what do you think about that? No, probably months. We're in video games. This is months.
Skim, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think that necessarily top three. I think that's a bit ambitious, but I definitely think that they could start to establish themselves at the top of CAS. I think CAS has been very shaky in the last year or like, yeah, you could say year, maybe even year and a half. I think it's been a bit turbulent. There's been a few teams. VP usually was the team that was at the top of CAS, but they've also been really inconsistent. Then Vega came out, and then they've also been really inconsistent. After ESL won New York, they've been really inconsistent. And but just the way they're playing right now, I think they're on a really good way and a really good path to become top in CIS. Sure, there's Navi right now, obviously, and maybe even Team Empire, but I think that Vegas Rodden just is playing really promising. And for me personally, I just don't. I think maybe that's also why they're also able to. I think maybe it's like the MVP factor. I don't think a lot of people have them on their radar, and I think for a lot of people, it's just that kind of team that everybody knows is there, but it's not necessarily the team, right? And maybe that just works into their favor because, I mean, they did just take replay. But overall, I don't really see them necessarily being the top three team, but top CIS, yeah, sure, I can see that happening. They've been playing really promising. They have a lot of promising experience, but also really talented players. FN is, in my opinion, probably like when they swapped out Pasha for FN. I was really I was doubting that. I was really skeptical, but in my opinion, it was probably the best idea they've had because the guy's amazing, honestly, on the team.
Yeah, it seems to be an issue for CIS teams in particular that they find a good string of results. I mean, there's the legendary Empire squads of yore where they look like one of the strongest teams in the world headed into TI, and then suddenly the magic stops. Suddenly the clock strikes 12 and the carriage turns back into a pumpkin.
Exactly.
I do like the change that I'm seeing. You asked me about Vega, and I'll say that while I don't know that they're a team that's going to cement itself as a top three guaranteed team anytime soon, I do think that they're a team that needs to be on everybody's radar. They're a dangerous team. We saw in the EG series that they're capable of extraordinary teamwork, and then as Skim so eloquently put it, there's just a ton of talent on that roster right now, a mix of old and young, and they've really become for me the defining squad in CIS because CIS Dota is no longer defined by pick me Slark and I'll solo carry us the game. The sort of almost pub-esque CIS Dota. It's very much CIS Dota is very much punctuated by strong teamwork, by strong mechanics, by strong laners, and Vega, while maybe not one of the top teams, and while maybe not a favorite to win a major or a TI, is certainly an example of that.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about that kind of gameplay style and the teamwork needed, what happened to Na'Vi?
Excellent question.
Sorry, I mean, did you guys see we play? Oh my! I mean, I want them to be back, just like Alliance came back and just like did it. I mean, I would love to be wearing that like yellow hoodie once again. I have to dust it off every few months and take it out. But I mean, oh my god!
Things did not go well for them. Skim, break it down.
Here we go,
us.
Skim.
I think Navi at this point is just maybe a bit tired as well. If you look at their track record, they've been playing so many games actually in the last, I want to say, 3 months or so, just because online qualifiers, even on LAN, they've been traveling to a bunch of LANs now as well with Dota, not Dota, ESL in Manila Well, they have, whatever. They've been playing a lot of tournaments lately. They've been playing a lot of matches lately, and as much as I want to say that it's Navi also tired, it's also just that Empire is just really strong right now, or was really strong these past weeks. So I don't know. I wouldn't write Navi off. I definitely think they're back, and I definitely think they're going to be making a lot of splash. But I think if we play, especially, I think it was just Empire just showing up really strongly, and maybe also Navi is just still finding and trying to figure out what the patch holds for them. I mean, I think that Navi, especially now, has shown that they've been putting in a lot of work, actually, to make this team work. And all the practice, maybe, I wouldn't say it was wasted, but just the new patch made it so that Navi may need more practice again just to get back into the rhythm.
Maybe Dindy just needs to take a break. The guy's been in Dota for like a long, long time, and he's consistently stayed at a good level, and I think maybe he just needs to like take a year or two off and then come back to it, and then like have like the reunion tour. I don't know.
but he's for Dendy. You know, Dota is to Dendy what soccer is to a Brazilian soccer player. They're just playing you can pick the game. One. Just feeds them. Just it's fun for them. It breeds joy in. I mean, maybe it's difficult for him because he can't be. I mean, he could still have a personality outside of the game, but I'm sure that things are more serious now than they were at TI1, at TI2. true, when Navi were the most coordinated team and one of the few true professional teams in Dota. Obviously, so that changes.
Well, I mean, he's lost Havost and Puppy. He's lost.
You make it sound like they're like a family member that died.
Exactly. That's kind of how it felt when
Havost
Puppy left. I was like, because when Puppy went to Secret, I was like, I looked at my girlfriend. I was like, oh my god, Puppy's not on Navi anymore.
Should we send Andy flowers?
I know we should, because I mean, I want someone to look at me the way Puppy looks at Dindy. I mean, oh my god, have you seen it? Look, just Google that phrase.
It's a beautiful thing. Let me say this though, Skim. I think you touched on something that hasn't been brought up a lot in Dota discussion that I think is actually extremely important, and that's that when you look at professional sports, when you look at baseball specifically.
Wait, this isn't a professional sport?
Whoa, old school. Conventional sports.
Okay.
When you look at conventional sports, let's take baseball for example. Everybody says you never want to be the best team in May. And the reason for that is because if you're working really hard, if you're really pushing your team to your limits, there's a possibility that you get fatigued. And then when the playoffs come around, you lose your playoff spot or you lose a crucial series just from fatigue. And that's something that's sort of happening because of the major system. We can debate that point another time. But people are more focused on Dota for a longer part of the year. Yeah. And so what starts to happen is Navi a bad team now? No. So a Magical Wizard did not flip a switch overnight and suddenly Navi isn't capable of what they were capable of the last tournament. Clearly, they're tired. And so this is something that needs to start entering the minds of these professional teams. They just need to start saying, as Evil Geniuses has for a long time, what tournaments do we go to? How can we be rested for the important tournaments? And how much information and how much of our energy do we put out there for others to sort of take from us? If we play a tournament in Kiev, are we going to be ready for a tournament in Manila in a few weeks? If we skip it, are we going to have enough practice? It's a delicate balancing act. It's something you see in conventional sports a lot that I think is starting to happen in Dota 2.
It seems like you're making it seem like management is a strategic position.
No,
it doesn't
sound
Managers
right.
Nationwide are grasping at the computer screens. Who knows? I agree with you. I feel like you have to kind of spread your jam across the bread effectively, because if you just have a big glob of jam on one side of the bread, the other side of the bread's dry.
Do you put jam on both sides of your bread?
Hey man, I used to run track, and that's how my coach taught me. He was just like, "Hey man, you're running the 400. You don't just sprint the first 100 yards and then expect to just be fine for the next 300. You gotta figure it out."
That's a really sticky way to eat jam.
What? I don't know. Toast is weird. Dota.
Anyway, a lot of big results coming out of We Played. Sadly, all we can do is sit here and prognosticate. But in the meantime, while we're waiting for our favorite teams to appear in the next big tournament, the Manila qualifiers are going on. Obviously, it's a big topic for us to discover. But I assume, Skim, you've caught a couple of matches. Give us your thoughts. Tell us who's impressed you as the Manila qualifiers have gone on.
Manila qualifiers, I think IG Vitality has impressed me the most, was the most surprising factor for me, and Ed Finham. I think a lot of teams that are doing well, like No Diggity, Vega, eHome, and Newbie, were sort of to be expected. And then IG Vitality and Ed Finham just really surprised me just by the way they've been playing. I think Ed Finham, they just took first in their group, I believe, in the European qualifiers, and IG Vitality just took second place in their group against CDEC. IG Vitality knocked out CDEC. In my opinion, that's actually pretty huge. And I don't know, I just didn't expect it necessarily. I do think that I obviously think that both teams have potential, but they just really knocked it out of the park for me. But overall, I think that eHome is definitely the most, out of just...
We have a frozen Skim.
Oh boy, that's just frozen Skim.
We have frozen Skim.
Do we have a default? Your hair dryer?
This is not robot Skim. His insight was so powerful that it unfortunately overpowered Skype. Oh, there we go. We got Skim
he's back. He's back. Okay,
Skim,
cool.
Go ahead and finish your thought. We didn't hear most of it.
Yeah, I think that out of just sheer performance, I think that eHome is the most impressive team out of all of them. I did expect them to do well and to win, but I didn't think that they would play so well as they did. I think they went undefeated, and they just beat everybody just almost with ease. There were I think 1 or 2 hiccups where they fell behind a little bit, but overall they were just really dominating. And I think that if they make it to Manila, I think they could easily be a contender for top 3, top 5 or something.
So just to recount everything properly, China has looks like 2 or 3 teams that could easily qualify for the spot. Europe's got 2 or 3 teams that could easily qualify for the spot. IceFrog, if you're listening to this, give us more goddamn qualifier spots. Enough of this invite stuff. We know we'll get mad at you if you don't directly invite our team. Look past that. Give us more qualifier spots.
I still think there only needs to be 4 direct invited qualifier spots, and if you go above that, then we get the same teams going against the same teams all the time. I love it when we see these random teams from like bumfuck nowhere come in and it's like, hey guys, we played Dota for a week.
Greece isn't nowhere. Greece is an entire country.
It's an
with
entire
a
country,
history.
but I mean, let's just not even go there. Let's talk about like what. Oh, I was about to say what really matters.
Anyway,
no, but
yeah, go ahead.
But you guys are right. I mean, if you just look at the past tournaments, right, where did the top performance come from? OG qualified for Frankfurt. They went through the qualifiers. OG won the title after qualifying. Liquid qualified for Shanghai. They weren't invited, and they made 2nd place. So definitely, like, we want these teams to. We want more qualifiers, actually, in my opinion, just because, But in general, qualifiers are good to have just because there's where the storylines come from, and that's where these teams are coming from. Like or TA5, CDC, they came in through the wildcard qualifiers. They made it, and they're 2nd place.
So the message at the end of the day, and I think the thing that we can all agree is the best part about having more qualifiers, more Dota.
Oh my God.
More damn Dota. Skim, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. Any shout-outs or anything before we head on to our next segment?
Otherwise, no. Thanks to you guys for having me.
Yeah.
She forced me to say it.
Wait, say what? You were froze. We actually didn't hear it, so let's hear it.
She forced me to say it.
No, the thing before that.
The thing before what she forced you to say.
What did she force you to say, man? Get it out.
No. Just shout out to you guys. Shout out to you guys for having
thank
me.
you.
Oh, thank
yeah,
you.
No problem. All right, Skip, have an excellent night. Thank you so
That sounds
much.
like a hostage situation. She told me to say it.
Sounds pretty rough in there. Thank you to Skim for braving the battleground. Well, folks, we normally have a very special segment in the middle of our show, Tiffany Teaches Team Fights, but unfortunately, poor Tiffany has been sick this week. It turns out finals week has been awfully rough on our intrepid team fight reporter, and so she unfortunately had to take the week off. We wish her a speedy recovery, and we look forward to learning more about team fights, saving you from boneheaded team fight moves in the future. Now, we play.
No.
No, you're
Did I do a
you're not a
bonehead
boneheaded. I've done completely boneheaded things.
Did you play PA this week? Nahaz, I told him not to.
I fortunately did not play. I actually played Axe, and it went swimmingly.
Oh man, I had an Axe game earlier today too, and it was so bad.
It was bad?
God. Yeah.
Did you buy Blade Mail?
I bought Blade Mail, and it went
You
counting
should've
helix,
won.
but it was constantly LC. LC right now, this patch should be renamed not 6.87, just LC in every match. LC or Slark.
6.87 LC patch.
LC. She is broken with Blade Mail because she duels you and then like pops Blade Mail, press the attack, jumps on you, duel, and then if anybody else is there just to help out with the DPS.
That is, as a novice Dota 2 player, that is far too many buttons for me.
Oh, really?
Now moving on to our next block. Obviously, thank you so much to Skim for the analysis about the teams, but it's not just the teams that changed with the patch 6.87 and we play in Kiev. It was the characters too. I almost said champions. I work with League of Legends people. Don't hold it against me.
We're not
the heroes, the changing meta in 6.87 is obviously something that people are very interested in. A lot of new items, a lot of very peculiar items, I have to say, and people not sure how to handle them, and obviously a lot of hero changes. And everybody wants to know where the meta is going to lie. Well, viewers at home, we've got some excellent news for you in your next pub games. You don't have to waddle blindly into the 6.87 meta. We have got the breakdown from WePlay, from Kiev itself, to talk about the big changes in 6.87, and the biggest change of all, I have to say, has to be
quaking.
The mid lane.
Oh my God!
I know. We're all excited about it. Several heroes coming out of the woodwork. You see them on your screen there. The first big one, obviously, is Wind Ranger, a character that came out of the woodwork.
The redheaded stepchild.
Was a Weehaw sort of boutique pick or a la carte pick, and did great things with it. The next one, of course, is Ember Spirit. Ember Spirit making a big-time return to the mid lane, a hero that can give you a lot of damage and survive those ganks while turning into a late-game monster himself. And then, of course, after that comes Puck, the elusive, slippery son of a bitch himself.
Itself?
Sorry, yeah, I forgot that she's
we
a
don't
pretty
know.
dragon.
Gender pronouns.
I always forget though. But Puck obviously putting on quite a bit of a show. Not quite the same win rate as the other heroes in our little video, but doing a lot of work in her own right. Obviously,
I don't know. Puck is one of those interesting heroes.
You explain.
Okay, so as a person that doesn't play much Puck, I love the mid lane. I love playing mid lane. And every time I go against a Puck, I'm just like, oh man, I'm about to go against that thing. Because it's just like, if you're playing any hero, you're like, I am going to do this damage and it's going to hurt. And then it's just like not there. It's like, what?
Yep.
No, I needed you to stay there so I can hurt you a little bit. Like, just take it like a man.
And we saw a lot of people doing that to people, sort of taking the slippery glittery
slope,
dragon
yeah.
and doing incredible things with her in Kiev. We've actually got 4 stats on all 4 of those heroes to sort of highlight the changes that we're talking about. If Will, my technical director, there we go, beautiful. So we're looking at several big picks. One that I didn't mention is Mirana. Now Mirana, 6 games, 66.67% win rate. A lot of that has to do with Sumail's Mirana. And obviously, if you've got a Mirana, you sort of need to build a lineup around her. She's capable of a lot of things, but she's also a little bit squishy in her own right. And you have to have a player that's technically skilled enough to bring her into the mid lane. The big one, as you can see right there, Ember Spirit with an 87.5% win rate. It's 8 games. Granted, we didn't play a ton of games in Kiev this weekend, but huge golden XP per minute numbers, and then obviously landing a lot of kills, just capable of a lot of things. The Puck, the 45.45% win rate there, obviously a bit of an issue for the character, but played in the right hands, Puck is capable of doing a lot of things. Then of course Wind Ranger, 13 games played, 46.15% win rate, 3.69 KDA. You know what names aren't on that list?
I don't. There's a lot of names that could be on that list. There's a lot of heroes in Dota.
There are a lot of heroes in Dota, but a couple names that are conspicuously missing.
Outworld,
Devourer, and Invoker. The nerfs obviously hitting the pair awful hard, and this is now your mid lane quadrumvirate.
I like it. I'm just glad Invoker's not in it because I don't like Invoker. If you've listened to me, I just don't. I mean, I love the hero, the idea of it, but playing against a hero that can almost do everything is just like, oh man, but I wanted to play Dota the normal way. I don't want to play against like the weird tick-used and Sunstrike guy. It's not cool. But I mean, who knows? Like mid lane is probably one of, if not the most important positions in the game because it sets the tone.
And I'll point out that by the way, if any of you have any questions in the chat, please feel free to throw them at our producer at Daily Dot, and we'll go ahead and address some of those as we lock down the meta, the new and shaping meta, ever changing at 6.87. And the big change that I think to the mid lane that we're seeing here is that it is important again. You said it was important in 6.86. I don't feel like it actually was, because a lot of it was about putting another carry in the mid lane that could be safe from a ton of ganks, which was leveled the playing field to 2 specific picks. Outworld Devourer with his Astral Imprisonment, so he could sort of disrupt a gank, and then of course all of the disrupting spells of Invoker allowed them to sort of farm safely and become late game carries. Now we're seeing a tempo controllers. We're seeing tempo controllers enter the meta again.
So now the meta is currently tempo control from the mid lane, and I like how like in the previous meta, I don't know if you said it, but like the rotations from your support to the mid lane to probably secure those ganks against the mid laner. Because if you brought in anybody, literally anybody to help you out with that fight, like especially if you had an Invoker and OD, that fight was won immediately. Especially because they have like that extra DPS, they have that extra like something from some other hero happening to be in the mid lane. And I feel like now we're in 6.87, we're seeing the meta evolve into something that isn't what 6.86. I currently don't know, because I still occasionally see the people rotating in a support or some kind of like side, but like now we're not seeing this is guaranteed at the 5-minute mark. This is somebody's going to show up and then like disrupt your fight in some way, shape, or form. And we're seeing a lot less of them. I've noticed that we're seeing a lot less mid laners just give up the mid lane and that like that XP and gold advantage that they get over somebody that rotates away. You know,
Well, it's because as those tempo controllers get stronger, you see Wind Ranger build into an Orchid, you see Puck build into the Dagon, or even Eul's if she wants. You see a lot of possibilities for mid lane tempo controllers right now. So as soon as you get that advantage, the way that the new items are built and the way that the nerfs went, it certainly gives you an opportunity to sort of press that advantage, because now your tempo controller has extra utility, which means that you can control fights even more extensively. And if we could get that graphic up real quick, there's another thing that I want to point out about the mid lane. And that's the wildly varied golden XP numbers. Actually, that is the upcoming graphic. My dear technical director. Well, there we go. I was like, those numbers aren't all that different. That doesn't look that different. But here we go.
Changing.
509 versus 639, and then not even cracking 500 for Puck and Wind Ranger. And you know what that tells me is that there's quite a bit of versatility in what the mid laner's eventual role in the game plan actually is. Ember Spirit is now that he doesn't have to face up against OD and Invoker, a hero that can be deployed in the mid lane and become a late game carry later for a more greedy lineup, more reliably. Mirana also a bit of a farming carry in her own right, at least in the hands of Sumail. And then we see Puck and Wind Ranger sort of foregoing the extra gold and the extra farming space for more tempo controllers. So not only are we seeing new heroes in the mid lane, we're seeing heroes deployed with a different sense of purpose, and that seems to add an extremely varied draft pool.
The one thing I will say, I have a caveat with numbers like this, guys. I want to say something. Those numbers that you see, the GPM, XPM, especially post-game, they're kind of, I would say they're skewed towards the lower end, because have you noticed, like, towards the end of the fight, like, towards the end of the game, you're farming a lot less. So when somebody's got, like, oh my god, I got 800 GPM, 800 XPM, it's just like, was that in the first, like, 10 minutes, or was that post-fights? Because unless the game ends and you're just, like, fighting constantly or, like, gaining experience like a crazy person, then, like, those numbers towards the end of the game are going to kind of like fall off, because you might be rotating or like waiting for a gank.
So you're saying that these mid laners are actually farming even more than that graphic
like
suggests.
By all means, I'm telling you, like if you look at those XPs, I mean, think about like what the patch did to the creep wave, like because the ranged creep now has 60% of the XP of the entire creep wave. Like, if you're playing against somebody that knows this kind of information, which is most pros, they're going to go straight for the creep, like the ranged creep. I don't even care about the rest of the melee creeps. I'm killing the ranged creep. I'm going to deny it.
When I first started playing on 6.87, I would literally take half my HP and damage just to get a range creep, and then realize
I wouldn't do that.
Well, I was playing Slardar up against a Dro and a Lich.
Okay, so
that's
Lich,
not a great.
Did he sacrifice the range creep as often as he could?
Every single
time. Recent nerf by Ice Frog to Lich's sacrifice cooldown and mana. Didn't he increase the mana cost?
He increased the mana cost, or he increased the mana return, but he also increased the cooldown significantly.
Which is ridiculous. I mean, because like Lich, that's his thing. He denies the amount of experience you can get. He's almost like a Necrophos, in like he changes the way you play. Like you don't initiate against
especially
Necrophos
in the laning stage.
During the laning stage, like. Yeah, Lich is an amazing guy because he can deny the amount of experience you're getting. Which, like, when I first learned Dota and I learned what Lich was doing, I didn't think about it like that. I was like, oh, hey, this is pretty cool. This guy gets
I could get mana back. Yeah, sure.
But now you're changing how much experience they get. And if you're a mana-starved person, like I went up against the Clinks a couple hours ago, and this Clinks was constantly, like, he was playing very safe early game, and then he built Bloodthorn, and I was like, well, there goes the game.
Because
that was Nature's Prophet.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, that's game over. You can sprout yourself.
I sprouted him, and then I ran away.
Oh, okay.
It was
even better approach. Obviously, the oh my god. Obviously, mid lane's not the only thing to change about 6.87. We also had a major shakeup in the carry position. Lots of changes there, and we see some old favorites and some new faces sort of coming into the carry role. Chaos Knight with a 100% win rate, obviously a bit misleading because it only played 3 games. Anti-Mage also played only 3 games, but KDA and gold per minute, XP per minute numbers off the charts. Just great performances from some traditional carries, and especially with CK scaling with strength, he's maybe a little bit stronger in the late game, especially against Blade Mail lineups, because he has the extra HP pool that Anti-Mage doesn't quite have. Slardar also entering the fray. 9 games played, 77.78% win streak. And win percent. And a lot of this has to do with who's playing it. Obviously, Aoi played a great carry Slardar, but the fact that we're playing a Slardar in the 1 position at all is certainly a new development. He was seen as an offlaner, and now people are finding that you can get gold in the mid lane as well. And so that gives you an opportunity to put a free farm on a character that needs a Blink Dagger as soon as humanly possible.
Yeah,
to
Slaughter needs that in order to
Yeah.
initiate, because sprint is a great like movement speed boost, but it's not like an initiation tool.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at these graphs, I like the fact that CK has a 100% win rate.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean everybody go play him, please. Please don't. But I'm liking the fact that Lone Druid's win rate has dropped off significantly.
And I'm glad you pointed that out because
Oh my God.
I purposely put Lone Druid on there not to highlight his exceptional win rate, but his depressing win rate. Lone Druid falling well off the map. Obviously, some interesting drafting choices.
There's a disparity between number of games played and win rate, though. Look at that game, because the number of games played on Lone Druid is 8, but the win rate is a 37.5. Whereas with CK, he has a 3 games played and a 100% win rate. It's not that hard to win 3 games.
It's not.
Depends.
And I have to say, I think that I have the solution.
Okay,
I have
here
the
we go.
explanation for why Lone Druid's win rate has dropped off significantly. It's very simple.
Okay, I'm listening.
Back when Lone Druid was played in a meta that did not focus on tempo controllers in the mid lane, he had free reign
Oh, to farm as much as possible.
to farm as much as possible and to get in the face of his enemies. There was less utility and lockdown on the enemy team. You simply cannot pack as much utility into a team without a tempo controlling mid, even with a couple of really utility heavy supports, as you can in this meta. So what
Yeah.
happens is the bear can run straight into your face, straight into your towers,
Right
farm
to
that
the face.
radiance, and do incredible things. But the truth is, once you get into these games where you've got a Wind Ranger who could shackle the bear to the druid, who could shackle the druid to anything else, and then of course, you got to put a carry Slardar in there who can initiate on the back line very quickly and take care of the lone druid himself before the bear can even do anything about it. Those are all things that add up to making things much harder for heroes that want to simply run at you. And Lone Druid is the definition of that.
Lone Druid is one of those heroes. You know what? I like the fact that you brought him up because, like, looking at the rest of the graph, we've got CK and AM. Like, needless to say, some of the more greedy carries in the game. Like, you can't... AM doesn't exist pre-20 minutes. I mean, like, he does. He's still in the game. He's still a pain, but you're not nearly as afraid of him until later in the game.
The only thing you're afraid of is how much he's farming.
Oh, yeah.
And judging by the numbers up
disrupt
there,
that.
yeah, and judging by the numbers up there, 601 and 622 gold per minute, XP per minute, he's farming a lot right now.
Yeah, that's what he does.
Yeah, he absolutely does. And perhaps part of the reason that makes him more effective, or the reason he's more effective in this meta, is because with a tempo controlling mid, you can find extra safety in the jungle, or more likely, people are finding more ways to get kills on AM early, sort of jumpstart his farm, especially in the attacking the safe lane of either. Which I've always found ironic that the safe lane is like the most ganked lane.
Yeah, it's because it's not that safe. I mean, you just go.
safe at all.
I think it's safe because, like, logically, it should be the safest because they have to go
'Cause
through
it's
so
your
much
jungle,
to get.
right, yeah,
it's our
but
jungle. Keep it warded. But
doesn't
no,
work
like
like
to be
that.
honest with you, Dota is not the kind of game where everything is gonna like attack you. And the people that play Dota have the mindset of let's kill the carry as quickly as possible and as often as possible. And if you can slow down / disrupt an anti-mage's farm and experience gain, then you're gonna win the game. But that's the requirement. But anti-mage is almost as slippery as puck. Whereas with that blink, you need a silence. And a lot of people, we haven't seen silencer as much in this meta.
That's
or
true.
like any characters. Well, we have a bunch of characters that have silencers, but I think silencer would be, like, he's a great counter to
Death
anti-mage.
Prophet, Puck, and Silencer obviously make it easier to lock him down.
Yeah.
And a well-coordinated team is obviously going to have a much easier team than a bunch of pub scrubs trying to layer or overlapping their stuns on an anti-mage and then watching him blink away with 10 HP. Not that that's ever happened.
But, okay, I'm curious. What do you think about the CK? CK only being played in 3 games. Are we going to start seeing the resurgence of Chaos Knight? I love the fact that they got, like, Sean Connery to voice him.
You cannot deny what happened with Chaos Knight. 3 games, and Nahaz would be rolling over in his armchair right now to hear us talking about a 100% win rate on a hero with only 3 games in a tournament. But when you look at what happened with CK in these games, in the games where CK won, he either rolled over the enemy team, meaning he got a great early start, got some great farm, and then the phantasms, all the copies of himself, sort of took down your base very quickly because strength damage scales so well right now when you have people to help you lock down for a strength carry. But the other thing
He needs a lot
that's-
of farm, too.
He does need a lot of farm. That's true. But he can find space for that now, especially in the lineups people are drafting around him. But the big thing for me is the game in which Aoi played CK against Vega in game 2 of the losers bracket final. And simply put, when you look at what CK did that game, the game was entirely dependent on CK's carry potential. They got incredibly far behind. They lost, I believe it was 2 lanes of racks before they even had a chance to start the comeback. But once they started that comeback, once the items were on Chaos Knight, it was done. The whole team just said, you know what? Give the farm to Chaos Knight. Give the farm to him. Give him his AC. Give him his heart. And EG won that. It got to the point where when you watch the actual team fights, CK would run in first, front line, and start hitting the racks, and the team wouldn't even engage on him because they're just terrified of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
They're terrified of obviously the support that's coming back there, but that's sort of cursory to the fact that CK does so much damage in this meta right now.
Well, it's that kind of is carried on by the fact that he requires so much farm. Have you noticed, like, there's just the parity between Anti-Mage and Chaos Knight? These are characters that can single-handedly change the game from, oh, man, we're losing, to, hey, we won. Yeah, it's like that's how they affect it. But the requirement, it's like the long-term investment. Mm-hmm. You really have to invest in the CK. You really have to baby him. You really have to like make sure that he gets the required farm, experience, gold. He needs that space in order to become the powerhouse that he's able to. Mm-hmm. You're not going to see Slardar getting that kind of baby treatment. It's because he can be. It's almost like I had a conversation recently about like what Dota has become and the way that Dota players look at the game. You have Lion, you have Slardar, and you have like Earthshaker. Mm-hmm. They can affect the game with almost no farm. Slardar less so because he needs a Blink Dagger.
Sure, the Blink Dagger helps.
But these characters can play the game in a way that they take control of the situation, and they can do so up until the point where the other carries can come forward. Like you won't see a late game Lion solo like initiating and be like, guys, I'm here, I got this. No, it's like Skywrath Mage. Early game, he's a pain. Late game, he's just like, you did something to me. Unless he gets
that Ags. He gets that 20-second.
Oh, my God. Which is beautiful because, the cooldown on that is insane now. But, I mean, I think that IceFrog is doing something very interesting where now we see the amount of intelligence that is boosted. The amount of intelligence that goes into a hero now also affects the amount of magic damage that they can do. Sure. And I feel like he's trying to say, hey, Skywrath Mage is still in the fight, guys. It's 28 minutes in. Don't forget about him. I mean, because he's got that silence and he's got the magic boost and the Veil of Discord, but he needs those items.
It's true. Now, moving on to the people who don't need items.
Okay, here we go.
The big support, obviously there's more supports being played, maybe not so obvious, my apologies. A lot of supports being played, but the support that really stuck out at WePlay and a very hotly contested pick was the Doom. The Doom, the scary ass position for Doom. I'd like to take a second and thank an Estonian fellow by the name of Puppy for making sure that I never get any spells off in a team fight ever again because I'm the first person doomed. Thanks a lot, Puppy.
Well, I mean, think about it. Doom is an amazing hero. I miss the Doom meta, and I think that we might be seeing a resurgence of Lucifer himself. Doom is insane because you give him a carry role, he's a pain. Oh my God, Doom's coming. But if you give him a support and you also have a carry, not only are you giving somebody the ability to like negate all spells, all support, because if you doom the carry, that's you doom the carry,
you remove them from the fight, basically.
But if you doom the support, the extra help that comes in from behind, now you've got a carry that jumped in. It's just you.
Yeah.
Congratulations. You played yourself.
And the difficult thing, and I think the reason he was such a priority pick for people and he was played in the 4 instead of the 5 is because support Doom with Scorched Earth. Yes. And with his natural meta, and then with Infernal Blade and Doom, is just a run-at-ya machine. I mean, he gets a little bit of armor, he gets a little bit of stats in his inventory, and suddenly he is directly in your face, stunning you with the Infernal Blade, burning you with the Scorched Earth, and that's enough to make the Doom tick you down before you even have a chance to respond. And so I like the Doom pick because I love seeing the new. Yeah, I love hearing the Doom sound. I love seeing.
I have a hat that has the word Doom on it. I love it, man. It's like Doom. It's like such an epic ult because it's not like, oh, I've doomed you, like happiness and rainbows. It's like doomed. You're screwed, son. Yeah. Welcome to the party.
You feel completely isolated and completely shut. It's a truly well crafted ult.
Can we rename it Stalker? Because once he gets Ags, he just follows you. Because it's just like you got doomed and you're just like, I need to get away. It's just like, no, come here, son.
and fighting against a well are a well-armed Doom. And that's another thing that has to be said. It's one of the reasons that, for example, EG lost that game 3 to Vega, so they didn't make it onto the grand final, was because Vega did a great job of putting farm priority on the Doom. So when it came down to time to initiate, he had so many things that helped him out. He had the drums, he had the Shiva's Guard, he had the Scorched Earth, obviously his natural tankiness. He had so many things to help lock a team down. And I think that's really where the support Doom comes from, is its ability to lock down a team single-handedly in such a meaningful way. And it's not a pick for beginners, obviously, because this isn't a hero that's going to win a fight based on damage. He wins the fight based on his utility.
Yes, so, he is a utility hero.
That's why we're seeing such great 4-position supports pick up the Doom.
All right, I have a couple questions for you, especially right now. So moving forward, we've got Manila going forward. We've got the International coming at the end of the summer. Is there anything you expect to see that we haven't seen already? Or would you like to see?
I think that's an excellent. I think that one thing that we'll see. Let's see. One thing that we'll see more of is Lifestealer.
Whoa! You heard it here first, Ian. Here we go.
It's not, I mean, if you saw EG's games, it's not that surprising a pick. They like to pick it for AY, and it's sort of that same sort of tanky run at you strategy. You combo it with a Doom, and suddenly you can lock a character down and completely erase it from the map very quickly.
Yeah,
it's a very effective.
Is that
pick.
Attack speed? Oh.
Yeah, and we saw, I believe it was FDL was facing off against an American team. Their name escapes me right now, but they were 40,000 gold down, and a Lifestealer carried them back into the game and took the win for them. It was a well-known American team. I wish for the life of me I could remember who they are. And if you know who they are, please mention it in chat, because this is going to bug me for the rest of the night. I think we're going to see more Lifestealer. I think we're going to see considerably less Lone Druid.
I think we're not going to see him for a while until the next patch brings him back. Next 3 patches somehow bring him back into the meta. And
then as for picks that I would love to see, that's kind of. I mean, did you have something in mind when you asked?
I mean, you said Lifestealer, who was my bane of existence. Him and Slark. Oh my god, I hate Slark, but I accept that he's in the game because I play it still. No, I didn't have anything in mind. I was genuinely curious about what you thought. Oh, here we go. Omni Knight. No.
Yes.
No.
Omni Knight.
No.
Think about it.
No.
Consider this lineup.
Okay, I'm listening.
Okay.
I'm still gonna say no, but I'm gonna listen.
Omni Knight in the position 5.
Okay, because I mean, no. The thing about Omni, no.
I mean, if the meta has evolved to tanky run at you lineups, Omni Knight is that guy. Omni Knight is the man to let you run in.
He can be that guy, but an Omni Knight that receives the farm needed to build into a tanky lineup is kind of like not the meta that we're going to be going towards, because Omni Knight requires items to become the tanky guy. I had a conversation about this literally yesterday.
I mean, he's like what, Arcanes in a Soul Ring? Like,
okay,
that's not that hard.
It's not that hard, but then like, okay, are we talking Vanguard? What does he want to build?
No,
what do you want to build? What do you want to build on him to make him into the tanky character that can run at people? Because the moment he's silenced, look at that auto attack go.
I mean, he doesn't need to be the one to run at people, though. He can throw repel on the guys who are running at people, and
he can
that gets scary.
Things he can do. There's things he can do, but I don't think the meta will shift so far towards the way that Omni Knight is the character that just like, hey guys, Omni Knight's got this. Let's look way back and see what he does. No, I mean, I've seen the video carry on. You know, I'm no Omni Knight. He just beats people with the hammer. Because Degen Aura is amazing. I'm not gonna lie, Degen Aura is amazing.
It is. And frankly, I think that especially in a meta with a lot of strength carries and a lot of damage dealers, Guardian Angel's great.
Oh my God.
I think that Repel is fantastic, especially in Invoker against Invoker lineups. I don't know. And then if you run him in, you get the Doom, you get the Bleed, and then the Rage on the Lifesteal, so he could run in, and then you just heal him on the way in. That's like a 2-hit kill.
You know what? I'm going to challenge one of the pro teams. Please play on Omni Knight and ping us, like #TrueSight. I want to see this. If this can happen, it's going to change meta for it. Because I mean, like, Omni Knight is the quintessential. He is the best like support, because he's like a baby machine. Like what he does is
his utility is extremely straightforward. It's easy for him to line up a kill and to line up the save. It's not a terribly complicated hero.
But I mean, he doesn't, like, if he got built Dagon on, like, if you put Omni Knight into a position where he has like a Dagon, he has a Shiva's Guard or Ags, and then like he can go into a fight like right behind somebody else, I can see his utility. Personally, I think that in the next few months we can start beginning to see probably a little more Slark, because the meta, like the new items that were made in 6.87 are very interesting. We've got Bloodthorn, which is perfect for him. We've got the thing that builds into Desolator. What is that? Blightstone? Blightstone is amazing. Windlace. Like, you've got all these items that, like, really help him out with that kit, because now he can move faster. He's got a really cheap armor degradation, like armor degrader, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got Bloodstone, which he's got what is it? Bloodblade. What's the? I just
Bloodstone.
Bloodstone. No, you don't ever build Bloodstone.
You mean Bloodthorn?
Bloodthorn.
Oh, Bloodthorn.
The
So many
Orchid
blood
Malevolence
items.
into Bloodthorn, because
Sure.
now it's got a crit and it's got a silence on. Like, he can silence you, and he can.
Yep.
Oh my God, Bloodthorn is insane. But that's I personally think that we can start seeing more assassin-esque heroes. Like, I'm looking to seeing Ricky being played a little more, because now he's in captain's mode. Let's see what happens.
Ricky did get played in one game against EG. He was run as a support, and
no, that's a bad idea.
They won. They
won that
easily.
Really?
Vega steamrolled EG in that game.
Oh my God! I mean, well, Ricky
I think it was a niche pick. Basically, they went for a 2 invis hero lineup because they paired it with Clinks.
Oh,
and
God.
so you run in, you silence, you get a couple backstabs, and you Clinks them.
You just clink. That's a verb now.
When you
got
get clinked, you know it.
You know you got clinked. Welcome to the skinny people club, because I'm dead and you dead too. Exactly. I don't know.
A lot of things to look forward to, I think, and obviously, and we want to hear what you guys think. Go ahead and tweet us at @esports #TrueSec, because we want to hear what ideas you have for the meta. We might include a few of them in the show next week. Let us know what picks you want to see more of in 6.87, especially as the qualifiers soldier forward. And as we head into this exciting new non-Outworld Devourer, non-Lone Druid era of Dota.
The dawn of new Dota.
I feel so much better about life. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, go ahead and hit that follow button down below, or hit the subscribe button if you're feeling particularly generous. We greatly appreciate it. Also, check us out on Twitter and Facebook, over on Twitter @esports. And if you want to catch the VOD after this, go to youtube.com/daily.esports. Folks, I've been Ian J. Barker. This has been Lee Malice Massey. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. And for God's sake, play some damn Dota.